Hey guys, Ultimate Deadpool here. Real quick, there are going to be bloopers at the end of this video. So if you guys liked what I did with my last video, stick around to the very end and you guys can see the bloopers of this video. So, real quick before we get started with the actual video and everything, let me put this question up for you guys. Would you guys like to see a Leonardo based video series similar to the Deadpool Time and Space series I did, where it would be Leonardo going through different universes and whatnot, changing forms, fighting alongside other versions of himself and his brothers and everything else. Let me know if you guys would like to see something like that, because I have a fairly decent storyline in mind of how it could play out, who he would fight along the way, who he would meet along the way, what versions of himself and what versions of his brothers he would meet along the way. So let me know what you guys think of that. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with today's video. What is going on, guys? Ultimate Deadpool here. So we've got a bunch of shit to talk about today, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into things. Okay, I'm going to start with probably the most weird thing first, and then we'll get into the turtle stuff. If somebody had told me that the cereal Count Chocula had its own mascotted car, I wouldn't believe you. I was literally walking around Walmart and I saw this and I'm like, seriously? They freaking turned Count Chocula into a 59 Cadillac Coupe de Ville? And that's exactly what this is. This is basically I guess you could say, Ecto 1 Count Chocula edition. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Count Chocula. That's one of my favorite cereals around Halloween. And the overall detail work on this car is pretty cool, as well as the die-cast figure as well. Looks pretty good. Looks really close to Count Chocula himself. But I'm like, why would you do this? Like, what possessed somebody to make Count Chocula its own vehicle? And just so you guys actually believe me that this is basically Ecto 1, that's the two cars side by side. Now, I'm not opening this right now. I'll do that later. But the front end of this car is the exact same as the front end of this car. So, it is literally basically Ecto 1 as a Count Chocula vehicle. The only difference is this is an actual car, the other car was an ambulance. But I would love to talk with the company that does Count Chocula and say, why would you market something like this? Don't get me wrong, it is kind of cool, but at the same time, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and the whole creepy ass face on the hood or on the roof of the car just doesn't make it much better. But don't get me wrong, this is still pretty cool, and it will go in my car display box. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into what people are actually wanting to see, and that's the Ninja Turtle. Okay, we're going to start off with the first new one. The other ones, except for the Rocksteady, are older ones, but I'll explain why I brought those out in a minute. This is the Leonardo from the Leonardo vs. Rocksteady, I guess you could say, bundle pack. And I found out that this is not made by the NECA Corporation. This is done by somebody completely different. It may be Playmates, actually, now that I think about it. But this is done by the same people who did the Michelangelo versus Daniel Russo Cobra Kai crossover figures. And I've already said I'm not going to go into too much detail with it, but this Leonardo is definitely way better than the Michelangelo figure. And there's 3 reasons why. One, the color is consistent versus Michelangelo. His head is one color, his body is one color, his arms are a different color. So that just doesn't really make sense with the whole color changing thing. Leonardo's joints are a lot stiffer than Michelangelo's, because Mikey can't really stand up all that well. But he can if he's got this base plate. Michelangelo did not come with one of those. So, see, I'm having a hard time standing up Michelangelo now. There we are. Okay. So, one thing I will give credit to the people who made these 2 or 3 figures, I guess, or 4 if you include Rocksteady in a minute. The detail work is actually really, really good. I do like all the multiple points of posability on the turtles. You know, how they have each of their fingers able to move, their toes are able to move, their ankles are able to move, their knees are able to move, their upper thighs are able to move, you know, their wrists, the elbows, the arms, even the midsections on these things are actually able to move as well. And you normally don't see stuff like that with Ninja Turtle action figures. So it's kind of cool to see that they kind of did that here. And then overall the head molds are pretty good as well. Now, I'm going to be a little harsh on this, and I really don't want to, because this is a beautiful figure. All 3 of these are. I'm going to go ahead and get LaRusso out of here, because he's not really part of today's video. But these 2 turtles are really good figures. Don't get me wrong. I have very few problems with them, and the problems that I do have with them are super minor, that it's stupid. And my problem with them is obviously the color on Michelangelo is kind of inconsistent. You know, I think most of that's because he does wear the karate gi, so you don't really see anything underneath it, even though if you take part of the gi off, you can still see the Michelangelo logo, so it is still a Michelangelo body. But for some reason, his head and upper body, actually I think it's just his upper body, because since it is 2 pieces to make up the main torso, I think this piece is actually a different color and the rest of it matches, because the bottom part of Michelangelo actually matches the rest of the figure and the upper part of Michelangelo does not. So I think that was just, maybe I got I think maybe I just got a defective one. I couldn't think of the word there for a minute. Which is fine. You know, I get that, you know, companies like this, they just kind of rush production and rush stuff out there just to sell it and make more money for Nickelodeon and Playmates and everything else. So I will say that these are really good build quality overall. I think, like I said, I think Michelangelo was just slightly defective. Leonardo, on the other hand, I'll get to his minor problems here in a little bit. But overall, these 2 are pretty well done in quality. It's not NECA quality. It's not, you know, Grammy nominating quality. It's just, these are meant to be played with. These are toys for children. I'm just collecting them just because I have an addiction to collecting things, and it's going to be the death of me one of these days. So, but yeah, overall, you know, not bad build quality. I will say though, Michelangelo's joints are a little bit more stiff, or are a little bit looser than Leonardo's, but you know what? That's okay. So, okay, now to be actually harsh on Leonardo. For those of you who don't know, Leonardo is my favorite Ninja Turtle. Always has been, always will be. So I have a lot more Leonardos than I do any of the other turtles. Mostly because I can't find any of the other turtles anywhere. Which is kind of messed up because I've been looking forever. So I have the official NECA, and I'm just going to put this on a stand real quick. But just because I don't want it to fall over. I have the official NECA Ninja Turtle of Leonardo. And I've said this before and I'll say this again. This figure is not perfect. For some reason, this is the same mold that the Slash figure that I have is, and for some reason his upper thighs do not turn, so his legs are kind of like inwards, like he's trying to hold his legs going to the bathroom. Essentially, this is what it is, and that's not a bad thing. It makes it look weird. It's a little bit harder to pose than the Slash figure is, And what really pisses me off is it's the same freaking mold, so it should have the same features. Now, again, I could have just gotten a defective one. I'm not 100% sure on that. But overall, in general, this is actually a really good figure. The head sculpt is great. The colors are really good. The overall build quality is really good. I just wish that they had either, maybe mine is just defective or whatnot, but the legs do not rotate like Slash does, and I know that this is the same mold that came from that figure. Now, back to the newer Leonardo. My biggest problem with this Leonardo is the coloring is horrible. Now, it's not that bad, but it looks like Leonardo is very sick and pale. Which is kind of weird because Leonardo is usually the toughest of the turtles with the exception of Raphael. But for some reason the green is just super duper light, and I wish that they had done either this kind of color green or hell, even do the Michelangelo color green, because then at least it would have been better. I know Leonardo has a lighter skin tone than the other turtles, but not, you know, pale white essential green. Like, this is like freaking I wouldn't say lavender green. It's more of like a olive, or not, like avocado type green, and it's just it's not really dark enough for me. But you know what, again, this is meant to be a played with figure for a kid. My collector side is starting to show out. And then the elbow pads and bandana and knee pads, you know, the overall blue color is just, it's a little too teal. I wish they had done it a little bit more blue instead of turquoise-ish kind of color, because on camera it actually doesn't look that bad. In real life it looks weird because it looks like it's a turquoise-ish teal, and I don't like that. But overall, again, I'm just being picky. It's actually a really cool figure. The colors I can get over with. The overall head sculpt and everything else I can kind of overlook with it because of how good this figure actually is. So, unlike, and I said this before, unlike Michelangelo, Leonardo does come with a sewer panel, or sewer lid, or whatever, manhole cover if you want to get really technical, that has special made parts for his feet, because this is not done by NECA, so they don't have the smaller holes. So at some point, Leonardo, LaRusso, and Michelangelo and Rocksteady will all appear in certain videos, but I need to fix their feet before I can do that. So overall, I'd say this is actually, if I had to rate this figure, I'd give it a 7.5 stars out of 10, because the build quality is good, the design is okay, the posability is really good. I love how they have all the fingers able to move just like that. You know, that's such a good build quality for kids and whatnot, and especially collectors like me and whatnot. You know, like, it makes sense to have that kind of playability for kids, because, you know, kids like to, nowadays especially, like to have everything move, and it's just such a really good quality that they add to these things. And again, my biggest nitpick with this form of Leonardo is I wish that the colors were just a little bit darker. Otherwise, it would be about a 9 out of 10 stars. Because, but simply just off the colors and just off the fact that the overall look of it just doesn't feel right. Because, like, this looks fine. This, you know, the color's a little too dark, but it's not bad. And then this is just, the colors are just way off. It's like oversaturated, or as if Leonardo is pale sick. So, but other than that, really good detail work. So again, I'm going to give this about 7 out of 5 stars, or 7 out of 10 stars. Okay, now some of you guys might not know this. Rocksteady was actually one of my favorite villains from the original 1980s cartoon show. Just because I loved his voice. I always thought his voice was just so funny. But I'm gonna be as nice as I can be with this figure. This is not a bad figure, just like Leonardo. Both of these figures are actually really good and really well done, and I can't wait to get the full set of figures. However, this Rocksteady is not bad, but we'll get into why I have at least 1 or 2 issues with it. First issue is his head. His head doesn't have you can rotate it and whatnot, but you can't really level it out. So if you have him kind of posing this way, you can't turn his head to where it's perfectly level. You have to like completely rotate his head in the opposite direction. So he's got a little bit of not as much head mobility as I'd like, which is not bad, but it's not great either. Again, I just have to keep telling myself that this is meant for kids. This is meant to be played with. This is meant to get, beat up and everything else. So they don't want to spend that extra money of making it perfect, because otherwise they would not make any money. Overall mold for Rocksteady, I really do like. I like the bullets on his chest as well as the grenade and the string work around his torso is really good. His design for his lower half of his body is pretty good. I will say I wish they had made his pants a little bit darker, because that looks a little odd in real life. The turtle shells on his thighs are really good. I like his boots. I wish they had made his ankles more posable. But again, you can't have everything in these type of things, because again, this is a toy. This is meant to be played with by kids. This is not meant to be a collector's item. I just collect it because it's my weird, twisted sense of humor. So, and just like Leonardo, he does have his manhole cover that has Rocksteady printed on it. And for some reason, Rocksteady comes with a sword. I don't remember him actually having a sword in the show, but I could be wrong. He may have had it. I don't remember. And the only other thing I wish is that they give Rocksteady is a sheath for the sword, so like he could have it kind of like that. But instead of having it be one way or the other, that's the only reason why I say that is because I'm a guy who likes to have tries to have all the accessories with the characters, with the exception of the NECA horror characters. Those are different. I just choose one weapon and go from there. But if it's a character that can has 1 or 2 weapons, and they're able to have them on their person, then it's way better for me psychologically, I guess you could say. But overall, Rocksteady looks pretty good. I'm surprised that they gave him a big firearm like this. Usually he has like a Dimension X blaster, and it's kind of fun. I think it's kind of funny that they gave him basically what amounts to a machine gun. I'm not a gun expert, so I'm just going to say that this looks like a big machine gun. His helmet is removable. The connection is actually fairly loose. It had a clear rubber band that went on it, and when I took the thing off, it just is really, really loose. So yeah, overall, it's not a bad figure. The color is a little too light, just like Leonardo. And I wish that the head helmet piece was able to kind of stick on there a little bit more. But overall, again, this is not a bad figure at all. This is actually pretty good build quality, considering this is supposed to be a toy. It is supposed to be played with, and it is supposed to be beaten up by children. So overall, I'd say Rocksteady is actually pretty good. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So the whole purpose of this video was to basically talk about these 2 things here, and obviously the Count Chocula automobile that I still don't understand. So these 2 are going to go in my display case. If I am able to fix their feet, they will appear in at least a few videos, Leonardo especially. But for now, they're just going to be standing in my display case just because, like I said, I have an addiction. It's collecting things, and it's going to be the death of me one of these days. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will catch you guys all later. Bye. Hey guys, real quick, before we get into today's video, or tonight's video I should say, I'm going to ponder this question to you, and I want to hear y'all,